Hello, Sarah Sabian, Executive Leadership and Intuition Coach here. And in today's video, I am going to be talking about the rise of the generalist. And this is a trend that I see starting to happen in the workplace and one that I believe will accelerate. So, over the last few decades, we have developed the impression that what is really valuable in the workplace is deep expertise in one specific area. So, knowing everything about that area. And within my client base, I have a proportion of execs that I would describe as generalists. So they know a lot about a lot of different areas. They have worked in different functions. They're involved in bringing functions together. They're involved in dot connecting, but they don't have very, very deep expertise in any one area. And some of them have often felt less than because for decades we've been prizing the specialist in the workplace. But I see that starting to change over time, and AI is helping that process. AI is basically contributing to these kind of echo chambers of groupthink where everyone starts to sound the same. Therefore, the leaders of the future are actually going to be generalists who can see patterns across different ideas, areas, functions that other people might miss. They're the ones that are able to connect diverse ideas cross-functionally. And because they're able to do that, they're able to come up with something truly innovative. The potential pitfall of deep sector expertise is a kind of tunnel vision. So this is the only thing that's important. This is the only thing that I know about. This is the only thing that I study and increase my knowledge in. And if you have that really focused tunnel vision, you just tend to miss things. And even within a specific field, so let's say you have people operating within the field of quantum physics. Most experts operate within 2 to 3 schools of thought within that. So it limits how far you can really innovate because what you'll get is probably the two extremes. So people with two polar opposite ideas and someone that has a more balanced view in the middle. And so you're not going to get really a lot of diversity of ideas within that specialism. But in contrast, generalists are people with a mix of experience and transferable skills, and therefore are better adapted to bring these fresh perspectives to complex challenges. And you should never underestimate how skills that seem completely unrelated actually feed into being more insightful and more innovative in the work environment. So that different perspective offers a wider lens on whatever the generalist is looking at. So I mentioned Einstein in my video on play. Feel free to go and have a look at that. But Einstein used music to help him in the scientific process. And my point here is, even if you are a specialist, you need to take on more generalist tendencies in order to succeed. As in, you need to realize how everything is interconnected and actually how something seemingly unrelated will make you better at whatever it is that you have your expertise in. So even the specialists need to develop more of this generalist thinking. So an example of that is Professor Brian Cox, who is one of my favorite examples of everything. For those of you that don't know, he is a professor of astrophysics at a university in the UK. He has brought a highly complex subject to the masses. I mean, filling out auditoriums in lecture theatres on a Friday night with people that want to learn about physics from him. Crazy. Because he explains it so well. So, as well as his deep knowledge and expertise, which he undoubtedly does have, he has taken the time to develop other areas and skill sets. Communication. One of the core tenets of communication is simplicity in communication. Not an easy thing to do with a topic as complex as astrophysics. But one of the other things about Brian Cox, which is interesting, is that he used to be in a band. So, Duran Duran, for those of you that are familiar with that. And music has actually helped him to be better at astrophysics, right? So music and math have similarities. And so through opening up his lens, he has been able to do something that many people would have thought is impossible, interest the masses in astrophysics. And there aren't that many people like that. So it really helps him to stand out within his field of specialism. So I've talked about this before, but one of the biggest risks in the AI age is the rise of a lack of independent critical thinking, or you could call it groupthink. So groupthink happens when a certain view becomes accepted as truth and no one dares to question it. And in an AI dominated workplace, this can worsen because if people rely on AI outputs without applying much of their own critical thinking, it has a knock-on impact on diversity and originality of thought because people are all getting their answers to things from the same source. And there is an MIT study, and one of the things that it shows is that where people tend to go to AI generated answers first before applying their own critical thinking lens to an issue, this reduces originality and diversity of thinking. So this is one of the reasons as well why there is likely to be a rise of the generalist, because the generalist is naturally adapted through their experience to thinking about things from different perspectives, different angles, connecting the dots, questioning, seeing how things fit together. So if you're a generalist, great. If you're a specialist, I would ask yourself the question, how can you start to develop other things that are really going to enhance the area that you specialize in and help you stand out?